Hello. I wanted to use my exercise of the day to bring you to my favourite spot at Barking Riverside today. It's this point on one of the entrances into the estate. You've got the amazing welcome sign. You've got the community hub and the Rivergate Centre, the school just behind me for phase one of this area. You've got off down in this direction, if you can see, you can just see where they're starting to build the train station, the railway line, and all the new estate's going to be off down there. And then if you can see this red brick building behind me over here, you've got a sense of the history, because that is what remains of the original Barking power station. That used to be the largest power station in Europe back in, I think, the 19th century. But I also wanted to come here because in the middle of lockdown, 4 or 5 weeks into it, this COVID crisis, where we're starting to realize that this is longer. It's going to take longer to get out of this than we thought. And actually now is a moment where we need to be remembering the promises that God has given us. And realizing that the things that God was speaking, the things we had hope in before the crisis happened, before this pandemic, are still sure and are still strong today. And actually this, back in the early part of 2018, is where me and Anna came, when we were trying to work out whether God was calling us to start this church plant down at Barking Riverside. And it was just over the road from where I'm standing right now, underneath a bunch of pylons, that you can really hear the electricity crackling. And what I didn't realize at that time is that you can hear that all over this estate. But as we've been praying around, we had a real sense that God loves this community, and He has amazing plans and is wanting to move in the people of this community and who are going to be part of this community here, and do something which is part of what He's doing right across the UK. And in the middle of something like this pandemic, we can lose sight, and quite rightly we're responding to the crisis, but it's possible to lose sight of the wider, the longer term promises that God has made. And I believe that no matter how bleak it looks right now, God is still wanting to move in our nation and in our community. And the promise that God gave, one of the scriptures that came to us while we prayed around, is from John 7:37 to 39. And it's when Jesus stands up and He says, "Anyone who is thirsty, let them come to me and drink. And out of the believer's heart, I will make streams of living water flow." In other words, Jesus is saying, anyone who's thirsty, anyone who needs hope, who needs answers to questions, who needs something secure to hold on to, who needs strength, who is wondering what's going on, who needs purpose or meaning, who needs forgiveness or grace, come to Jesus. And in Him you find real life. And life not just enough to get by, not just enough to survive a crisis, but life that is like a spring of water that overflows out and affects everyone around you. God loves every person, has a purpose for every person. And it's when we come to Jesus that we find what it is, find His life and His love, and become people where that love overflows from us to others. And so our vision for the church at Barking Riverside is to see Barking Riverside thriving with Jesus at the heart of every person and every place. We believe that happens when we come to Him, depending on Him, relying on Him and trusting in Him. And our prayer for you, for every part of this community, is that we keep trusting in Jesus. If we don't know Him yet, if we're not sure about Him, if we're just thirsty for some kind of hope, security, or asking some questions, turn to Him and ask Him to show Himself to you. Because from Him comes a real life that makes a real difference.